Pascal. You are now rocking with that dude Pascal. We be going wild, Haitian in the building, so original. Got the haters catching feelings. Get your hands up to the ceiling and keep them held high. Cause St. Louis is ready. Forget about it, goodbye. Hold on, we just saying hi. Five somebody rise up weekdays. Catch us live, somebody. Let's go.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Pascal Show. Hope you guys are all doing well out there. Hope this show finds you in good spirits and all of that stuff. I need y'all brains today. We got some things to talk about. I asked you guys in a post or in a poll what you thought during the live, not on the community page, but during the live. I asked you guys if you wanted me to discuss or talk about the recent developments around this Scott Peterson, Laci Peterson case. And by a landslide, a lot of y'all said, yes, you wanted to hear me talk about this. So here I am to talk to you guys about it. Again, this is going to be at least the basis, the foundation of this story, which is very thick. There's a lot that's going on here. I'm going to be giving you guys just a very broad stroke breakdown of a timeline so we can get to the meat and potatoes of the actual new developments around this unthinkable case, so that we can actually have a discussion about what's going on today or in present day. Not 20 years ago, but present day today. Okay? So if you appreciate that, definitely do me a favor. Hit that like button down below. That'd be greatly appreciated. Maybe I'll do a video, like a standalone video, where we talk about everything that led to his guilty verdict, which is a lot. There's a lot going on within this whole case, within Laci Peterson's case, for sure. But now people are wondering. There's still a lot of people that think that he's innocent out here. And there's a whole lot of people that think he's guilty. We're going to talk about it. Hit that like button down below, please, and thank you as you guys start to file in. That would really, really mean a lot. It's very interesting. 20 some odd years later, and now there's a possibility of a new trial. There's a possibility of new DNA, new evidence presented to this case. Very, very interesting stuff. So if you appreciate what I'm about to do, hit that like button down below. Send it past 200 likes as you guys start to file in. If you're watching on Facebook, make sure you hit that reaction button down below. That'd be greatly, greatly appreciated. Okay, let's not forget to crush that subscribe button. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that follow button on my Facebook page. And of course, follow me on all my social medias, The Pascal Show, one word. Your boy's working hard out here in these streets to give you guys the information and entertainment that you need for the day. If you want to support the channel any further, you can hit that join button down below, become a family member if you're watching on YouTube. And of course, check out my merch page, pascalmerch.com. Got some brand new stuff that just dropped the other day, especially for Valentine's Day. Go check it out while supplies last. All right, guys, pascalmerch.com, just so you know. All right, guys, we got to get into this. All right. This is a very interesting thing. And yeah, S-Dubs, I know a lot of people are coming in hot with their thoughts and opinions about this, but you are not wrong. The Innocence Project doesn't take on cases without proof, which is very, very interesting indeed. And we're going to be jumping in and talking about Innocence Project and all that and who they are, what they do, and all that stuff here in just a minute. But of course, we have got to get into this conversation. This is a very old case, okay, that I think that a lot of us thought was already kind of wrapped up, nipped in the bud. And this alleged, or this convicted, by the way, found guilty man would see the rest of his natural life behind bars. Now, he was on the DP, okay, the ultimate price, and that was thrown out. So now he's just living life in prison, right now, for the unaliving of his wife and his 8-month pregnant wife and their baby, okay? But let me show you guys a photo of them. Okay, this is from back in the day. Again, this is Laci Peterson. She was his wife at the time. She was 8 months pregnant. Let me say that again. She was reported missing on Christmas Eve of 2002. So this goes all the way back. Okay, this is back in the time when Britney Spears and NSYNC were popular. Okay, that kind of thing. All right, this is all the way back, guys. All right, when people were still wearing hip hugger jeans. Wow. Anybody remember that? Never mind. Moving on. This is pretty crazy. This case, it's unbelievable. The timeline is pretty insane. And there's a lot that's gone on with this case that makes you wonder, well, I mean, everything really points down towards the fact that this man right here, either he's just one dirty swashbuckling son of a gun, okay? Or he did it. Either he's just one lying sack of ish, or he did this. Now, there's been a lot of people, a lot of true crime podcasters that have talked about this for forever, okay? Because this is a very big case. And I know that at the end of it, the reason why it's such a huge conversation is because there are still a lot of people that believe this man is innocent. And now we have an organization called the Innocence Project that believes that this man is innocent. And they're looking to exonerate him for the unaliving of his wife and his unborn child. Now, the details behind it is unbelievable. I mean, he was having extramarital affairs. He was constantly lying. Let's not forget all that. I keep circling back to that because this man was a pathological liar. Beyond just him just having extramarital affairs, but all the other things that just weren't adding up, especially when it revolved around the passing of his wife and unborn child. It's pretty weird. But nevertheless, we got to get into this. I know a lot of you guys are wondering what the heck is, what this is all about. But I wanted to give you guys the headline of what we are about to talk about. And then we're going to go back to the foundation of a timeline so we can get a better understanding of what the heck happened 20 years ago and why he was found guilty of taking the life of his wife and his unborn child. Take a look at this. It says the LA organization, the Innocence Project, okay, they are taking up his case. Now they're saying that they have new evidence that could claim or that could exonerate Scott Peterson, could maybe have him walk out of those prison doors as a free man. And the theories are very interesting that have been out here of the possibility of there being other monsters that have been out in the LA area or, in that particular area doing unthinkable things. Other women that have gone missing during that time, pregnant women that went missing at that time as well. There's a lot of speculations that have been out here, but so far they haven't really put anything out here to show solid proof that Scott Peterson did not have his hand at taking his wife's life, taking his wife and his unborn baby's life, right? But let's take a look at this. We're only going to tap into the first paragraph here, but okay, it says the organization examines possible wrongful convictions, said it was investigating a claim of innocence by Mr. Peterson, who was convicted of emming his wife, Laci Peterson, we got to use his code words, and unborn son. Now, this paragraph right here, we're going to get into the whole thing very, very soon, this whole article here in just a little bit, but I wanted to give you a little bit of this. So the LA Innocence Project, a nonprofit organization that works to overturn wrongful convictions, filed documents in court this week to re-examine the case of Scott Peterson, who is serving a life sentence in a California prison for the M's of his pregnant wife, Laci Peterson, and their unborn son in 2002. The organization said in a statement emailed to the New York Times that it, quote unquote, represents Scott Peterson and is investigating his claim of actual innocence. The Mateo County Superior Court confirmed the organization's filing on Friday. Now, we're going to continue on with this in just a little bit, but I know a lot of people are wondering, what is the Innocence Project? Who they be? All right? Which is interesting, right? I'm curious about this as well. But apparently they were founded in 1992 by visionary attorneys Peter Neufeld and Barry Scheck. The Innocence Project has been at the forefront of criminal justice reform using DNA and other scientific advancements to prove wrongful conviction, which is very interesting, right? Going on, it says the Innocent Project works to free the innocent, prevent wrongful convictions, and create fair, compassionate, and equitable systems of justice for everyone. Okay, cool. All right. Very, very interesting that we have that information as well. Okay. Now, let me go back into this here really quick. All right. So, Paula Mitchell. Let's see here. Paula Mitchell. Hold on. Hold on, guys. Now, it says Paula Mitchell, the director of the organization, said in a declaration included in the filing that newly discovered evidence had revealed deficiencies in the case's discovery process, according to the ABC News report of the court filing. The decision by the LA Innocence Project to take up the case resurfaced attention on the conviction, on the M conviction, which for years has generated widespread coverage by tabloids and news organizations, books, and at least one made-for-TV movie. We're very excited that the incredible attorneys at the LA Innocence Project are lending their considerable expertise to help prove Scott Peterson's innocence. This is what Pat Harris, who was one of Mr. Peterson's lawyers in the trial and said he would represent him in the event of a new one, said in an email. Now, here's some information. And of course, I do have another timeline, basically a timeline of everything here as well, which we might circle back to in just a little bit. But it says on Christmas Eve in 2002, Laci Peterson, a 27-year-old substitute teacher who was pregnant with the couple's first child, was reported missing from the home she and Mr. Peterson shared in Modesto, California. In April of 2003, her body and the fetus washed ashore in San Francisco Bay, close to where Mr. Peterson, who was 30 at the time, had told police he had gone fishing the day she went missing. He was arrested later. He was arrested that very month. All right. The case was moved to San Mateo County Superior Court from Modesto because of pretrial publicity. During the trial in 2003, the prosecution argued that Mr. Peterson unalived his wife so he could have an affair with another woman, Amber Frey. Now, Amber Frey was a massage therapist, and apparently he was lying to Amber Frey, saying, hey, I'm not married. I'm a single guy with no children. And this, of course, what they're saying. The prosecutor said that Scott was saying to Amber that he was unmarried with no children. Mr. Peterson was sentenced to his own demise by lethal injection in 2005. But the California Supreme Court overturned the decision in 2020. The court upheld his conviction, but said the trial judge had made mistakes that hindered Mr. Peterson's right to an impartial jury. Interesting. He was resentenced in 2021 to life without the possibility of parole. Lawyers for Mr. Peterson, who has maintained his innocence, filed a writ of, I don't know how to say this, but I'll just highlight that, habeas corpus in 2022, saying he had been deprived of his constitutional right to a fair and impartial jury because of a juror's alleged concealed bias. Haven't you noticed that recently? I mean, aren't we looking at some of those kind of stories recently as well? Habeas, it's habeas corpus. Thank you. Okay. I got it right. Habeas corpus. Corpus. Thank you, Debbie. I appreciate you guys. All right. But remember, there's a lot of trials right now that are looking at being retried, etc. All because of, oh yeah, this juror was biased, or concealed his bias, or this jury tampering. Okay, let's not forget what's his name, Alec Murdoch, Maggie, Paul. Remember that stuff? It's interesting, right? Oh, and don't get me wrong. I mean, with that woman Becky, right? That's a whole other conversation in itself. But if you notice, same thing with that. The Maya Take Care of Maya trial, as well. It's like they're sitting there going, oh no. There's been tampering. There's been a mess. They've been messed with certain things, so on and so forth. It's very interesting that we see that same common theme recently. And in 2022, they were saying the same thing here for Scott Peterson's trial that happened that was where he was found guilty, convicted, and found guilty 19 years ago. At this point, 18 years ago. So I think it's very interesting that almost 2 decades later, they're sitting there going, nope, we ain't done with this one yet. And now they're saying, oh, it was the jurors. In my personal opinion, it's like they're saying it was the wind. No, it was the wind. That's just how I see it. Okay. Now, I know there's a lot of people out here that believe that he's innocent. Okay. That he's innocent as all get out. I don't think so. I really do. I don't. And the reason why I say that too is, let's just take a look. Let's just take a look at this photo right here. Now, this has been enhanced a little bit, but this is a real situation. Okay. Anybody remember that? I mean, this is a long time ago, but my 2 cents, y'all. Yeah. That's why I throwed up this this photo. Remember this? Mother lover tried to run. If my memory serves me correctly. Okay. Very interesting. And of course, let's not forget, this is what he naturally, or at least during the trial, this is what he looked like in court. So remember that other photo. Goatee, he had frosted tips. Okay. Whole different look. And yes, let's not forget, thank you, B12. Yes, let's not forget the 15K in cashola that he had in his possession as well. Yes, my 2 cents, y'all. Yes. See, like I said, I know this story, but it took a minute to kind of rev back the memory because it's been a minute. But let's not forget, B12, I said frosted tips. Yes, I did say frosted tips. They were frosted tips, y'all. All right? But let's not forget, he was trying to get out of town. He was trying to kick rocks out here in these wilderness streets, as we like to say. Right? Very interesting. But let's continue on. All right? Let's not forget, he's sitting there going, no, it was the wind, because he was found guilty, and they're saying is in part because he did not have a fair trial because of alleged concealed bias. Now, also, I want to point out, though, too, I feel like any case can do the same thing. Any case can do the same thing. Any person that's been tried and has been convicted and found guilty, I feel like they can throw this on the table anytime, especially when it's a high-profile case. when everybody and their mama is seeing it in the tabloids, seeing it in on the internet, seeing it as front page news, seeing it on TV all day long. Let's not forget, it's very, very difficult to find jurors that have been living under a rock, especially the way in the internet and the way that information flies nowadays, even back then too. It's very tough for these jurors not to know a little bit about this Laci Peterson case. It's almost impossible now. It's the same thing when you look at the Take Care of Maya case, the same thing of Alec Murdaugh. Let's not forget, we looking at BK. Ain't he supposed to be going into a hearing, or he's supposed to be making some sort of a court appearance sometime later on this week? Again, if he was found convicted, tried, found guilty, etc., his team could do the same doggone thing. There was a concealed bias by these jurors. Who on this planet that would want to be a juror? Who on this planet wouldn't know about BK? Just even a little bit about the Idaho 4. Just saying. So to me, this is trash. But again, we do live in a time where everybody, especially when it's high profile cases, it's very hard to find jurors that just have been living under a rock, just living off the fat of the land, that don't like the internet. It's very hard, But let's continue. Inquiries into the case's evidence. So the Innocence Project re-examines on a pro bono basis cases of people who were wrongfully convicted. Most cases are based on misidentification by eyewitnesses or the incorrect application of forensic science. Wrongful convictions are also related to inadequate defense, false confessions, and other factors. The group said in its filing that its attorneys had reviewed trial files but could not locate evidence from investigations into events during the month Miss Peterson, Laci, went missing. Apparently, this is what ABC News reported, quoting these actual documents. According to ABC's reporting, Miss Mitchell said that newly discovered evidence had showed deficiencies related to police reports, tip sheets, and other materials used by the prosecution and defense. She added that items in the police report were not given to defense attorneys during discovery, and that witnesses were, quote unquote, hesitant or unwilling to provide information in the higher profile case. New evidence now supports Mr. Peterson, Scott's long-standing claim of innocence and raises many questions into who abducted and unalived Laci and Connor Peterson. This is what the filings are stating, according to ABC. So, an attorney's office said in a statement on Friday that Mr. Peterson, like all individuals convicted of these crimes, is afforded the legal right to appeal his conviction with representation of his choosing. Now, of course, he does. All right? Of course. And he can keep on filing all day long. All day long. But at the same time, it's up to the courts to make the decision on, oh, yeah, let's bring it back. Come on, let's run it back again, guys. Yeah, that's fine. Let's run it back. It was, if you say it was the wind, it must have been the wind. So just come on, run it back. But nah. So it's no for me, dog. I'm going to say it. But Miss Mitchell sent a letter about the findings to this Stanislaus County District Attorney on November 14th, 2023, all right, citing these filings. Members of Laci Peterson's family could not be reached for comment, which I totally understand. Okay. I do feel that a lot of people feel that they got their guy. The bad guy has been locked up. Throw away the key, bury him under the doggone prison. There's been stories and conversation. Now, this is all just hearsay from family members and whatnot on how Scott was with Laci, especially whilst she was pregnant. Right? Now, I get it. How it's dressed up, how it is delivered still does not equate to, oh, this man is guilty. But you look at all the other pieces of evidence that has been out there, that has been presented, it tells you something different. And again, I will have to say this again. One thing I think that says a lot, optically at least, is this. I'm sorry. I get it. People get scared, especially when everybody and their mama's looking at you. People get scared. People want to run. Everyone's looking at you as the pariah. Everyone thinks you're the one with the blood on your hands. Get all that. I fully get it. Fully. But one thing you don't do, is pack up your stuff, dye your hair, steal an ID that's not even yours. Oh, and let's not forget, take $15,000 and try to cross the border. And no, I'm not talking about Taco Bell. So, just right there doesn't equate to me at all. But nonetheless, homeboy about to have possibly another trial. And what say you guys on that? How does it make you feel? I'm sorry. It's the same thing as that the KFC. I must be hungry. The KC situation, the Chiefs fans that were found frozen in the backyard of that guy's house. Guy is packing up his stuff and literally moving right now. Does that make sense? You see what I'm saying? Doesn't matter. You could be the most innocent mother lover on this planet. But when you start doing stuff like that, it displays a different thing. All right? Now, I need to show you guys this timeline. And, I appreciate the New York Times for breaking that down as far as the LA Innocence Project. But again, this is crazy. And actually, before we go into that, I'll show you guys the timeline, because just so you guys, or, the article about this timeline, which we are going to be getting into here in just a second. And I got a slew of news clips, video clips that we need to check out, because they break it all the way down. There's people that come in, experts that put in their commentary about this case and all that. And we need to talk about that for sure. Okay. And he has been, like Raven just said, I think he will be denied a new trial. Now, the thing is that he has been trying to get a new trial for a while. So it's not like this is the first time that he's submitting, a request for a new trial. This is not his first rodeo. But now that he has the Innocence Project behind him, all right, and why would they go as someone said earlier, I think it was S-Dubs, why would Innocence Project go out of their way to try to exonerate this guy if they don't have evidence that they think is smoking gun evidence to exonerate Scott Peterson? Like I said, I have a lot of questions. We're going to get into it. I got a bunch of members chats, so I'm going to go through these really, really quick. But thank you so much for being a member for the past 11 months. S-Dubs, chat saying LA Innocent Project, not the same as organization Innocent Project. Then that is news to me. But from what I've seen, as far as the reports and all that, I've only seen one of them. So if there's another one, like a completely separate one, that would be news to me. Okay. But thank you so much for letting me know about that. Vintage Mama, thank you so much for being a member for the past 9 months. He was guilty then. He is guilty now. I couldn't agree more. I think they got their guy. It's a wrap. That's just me. Okay. Dawn F., thank you so much for becoming a member. Thank you so much. Welcome to the family. And just like Dawn, all right, just like Dawn, please be sure to hit that join button down below. All right. That would be greatly, greatly appreciated. Okay. Wait, hold on. But welcome to the family, Dawn. Hold on. I see something here. Hold up. Shannon just said, yes, the Innocent Project is all one, just in different states. So that could be it. It's the same thing, could just be in different states. And that is how I'm understanding that. So Shannon, thank you so much for that clarification. Okay. I got two more. Carbonized Stardust. Thank you so much for being a member for the past 1 month. Thank you. Welcome. You newbie. Thank you so much for your support. I feel for her family / her parents / family. They're going to have to relive this horror of loss all over again. Heartbroken. Yeah. I mean, yes, true. That is really crappy. But I will say this. If the Innocence Project has solid evidence of his innocence, unfortunately, it's just something that they're going to have to relive. Unfortunately. But then again, I will say this too. I'd rather relive it and they run that DNA, they run the new evidence, and it comes back not linking Laci to a mattress in a burned up van. You see what I'm saying? Like, I'd rather have that just solidify even more that they got the bad guy, that their bad guy is locked up even more. I know that would be, as Debbie just said, it would rip, her, where is it? Her mom just ripped my heart out. Like, I know, like, it would be extremely devastating to hear all this, to relive that over and over and over again, but it would just solidify. Damn right. Scott Peterson is the monster that we are all looking at. He is the one who did it, right? But exactly. But the thing is that this could very well be the thing that sets him free. I don't know. All I know is that we need, if the courts agree and say, go ahead, man, do your thing, then I guess it is what it is. But that has to be that, it has to be that evidence. The evidence has to be that thing that goes, boom, here you go. Proof positive, alleged blood on a mattress in a burned up van or whatever the heck it was, is that of Laci's, right? So there's a possibility of another alternate story here. But again, it's weird. He went fishing, same area that she and the baby boy Connor were found. Like, it just doesn't make sense, except for he had his hand in this situation. But I digress. Debbie, thank you so much again for being a member for 20 months. Poll time, him guilty. Okay. I will pull up a poll here in just a minute. Okay. Yeah, hold up. This isn't, you guys, the comments are coming in so fast. Thank you so much, though. I appreciate you guys' comments and all that. First one just said, I know this is a left turn, but before you know it, Shonda Vander Ark will get a new trial. I'm wondering if she will too. I don't know. But I know people are starting to talk about that one again. Again, there's a lot of these stories that are all kind of circling back again. It's pretty crazy. But thank you all for all the members' chats. I appreciate it. I will be putting up a poll. Give me a second. I will. I promise. Okay. But let's get into some of this timeline, because I know a lot of y'all are wondering, what is this? What happened here? What's this story? Some of y'all need that refresher really quick. All right. So here is a timeline. All right. Now we already know that it's really messed up. Okay. Just the whole situation, because it was like a baby was found, washed up, and then she was found, which is absolutely devastating in my personal opinion. And just on, I can't even fathom the situation. But let's look at this. All right, here's a timeline. All right, so Christmas Eve, 2002, Laci Peterson was reported missing from the Petersons' home in Modesto, California. January 24th, so a whole month later, Amber Fry, a Fresno massage therapist, comes forward at a police news conference and says she was having an affair with Scott Peterson. She says the affair began on November 20th after Peterson told her he was single. Lie number one, just so you know. I mean, Scott, on Scott's side. So when he met her, he was like, yeah, I'm single, ready to mingle. When he really was married, expecting a child during that whole time. Now, again, I will say this. That kind of information is a tale as old as time. Plenty of fellas, plenty of dudes out here that are gallivanting with scallywags, okay? They're gallivanting scallywags out here that will lie through their teeth so that they can get a little side chick. Sorry for saying it like that, but let's keep it real. Tale as old as time, all right? Doesn't automatically mean him guilty. But very interesting timeline here, because weeks before she passed away, weeks before this act, he was alluding to certain things about her being gone. Let's not forget that as well. But let's continue. So in November 20th, he was saying that he was single. April 18th, months later, California Attorney General Bill Lockyer confirms a body is found on April 13th on the shore of San Francisco Bay. Is Connor, and another was found the next day on the 14th of April, and that body was that of Laci's. Okay? April 18th, Scott was actually arrested in San Diego, pending capital M and double homicide charges, and is held without bail. April 21st, his arraignment, Scott is charged with 2 felony counts of M with premeditation and special circumstances. He pleads not guilty. May 2nd, Mark Garagos becomes Scott Peterson's attorney. June 12th, a gag order is placed on participants saying the restrictions are necessary to preserve Scott's right to a fair trial amid massive publicity. Again, this was a huge story, guys. This was a story that rocked the world. Let's keep it straight funky. Everybody and they mama was talking about this. I remember Nancy Grace was all up in this case, talking about this like crazy, right? This was a huge case back in that time. So I could see why there was a gag order placed, because everybody was talking about it. Man, this was on the front pages of tabloid magazines and newspapers, etc. I mean, it was insane, guys. But Nancy Grace was all up in this. Yeah, if y'all remember that, Nancy Grace was on that, okay? And of course, Nancy Grace at that time, and still to this day, I'm sure, I haven't watched her talk about this case yet, but she clearly at that time, and I'm sure still to this day, believes that him guilty big time. Okay? Him guilty big time. In fact, let me do this. Let me get this poll going. Let me do this. Okay. I said, do you think Scott deserves another trial? Yes or no? All right. Poll is up. Pinned to the top of the chat. Do me a favor, though. Hit that like button down below. That would really mean a lot. All right. Don't forget. Let's get it past 400 likes. That would really mean a lot if you're watching on YouTube. Okay. Helps grow the channel, helps people know that this show even exists. All right. And that we're having this conversation. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to hit that follow button on Facebook. That'd be greatly appreciated. Okay. Let us continue rocking and rolling. Here we go. All right. Yes. Yeah. Natasha B. Excuse me. Nancy was invested big time. Okay. So she was she was feeling it. All right. Judge Al Giorlami, hopefully, rules that news cameras will not be allowed in the courtroom at the preliminary hearing. On the 26th of September 2003, Laci's family files a civil lawsuit against Scott to prevent him from receiving money or selling his story. And I'm gonna ask you guys that. How do y'all feel about a guy who's being convicted of doing these unthinkable things? Took the alleged at the time of taking the life of his wife and unborn son. How do you feel about that person trying to sell their story to Lifetime? Shoot, Tubi. At this point, nowadays, Netflix. How'd that make you feel? I'd sue the hell out of him too. I'd be like, you don't you dare make one penny. That's just what I think. But that's very interesting. I know he's got to pay his lawyers and stuff, but at the same time, Zeus, man. Nicole, come on now. Zeus. That's insane. All right. Zeus to be, it would be that's a whole other Charles Dickens story right there. All right. But that, to me, S-Dubs, I agree. Dirtbag. That's what I think. And you got to remember, there's no GoFundMe's back in the day. There's no crowdfunding kind of sources back in the day. You know, I get he has to pay his bills, his legal bills and stuff. But at the same time, I don't know. Bad move in my personal opinion. So moving on, December 19th, Laci's mother, Sharon Rocha, sues Peterson for over $5 million for the demise of Laci and Connor. As the executor of Laci's estate, her mother files two separate lawsuits, a wrongful death action and a survival action. January 20th, the whole year. Wow. Okay. The criminal trial is moved to San Mateo County. February 2nd, the judge bars cameras from the courtroom for the entire trial. See, it's interesting because we're looking right now at it's just sounding familiar with this whole Brian Koberger situation and all that. I mean, it's going to be very interesting. I mean, obviously, cameras are allowed in the courtroom right now. They're not going to be, from last I checked, they're not live streaming, but they can still have cameras in there. You can't zoom in on BK and all that. But again, you got judge coming in here saying, okay, here's the things you can do and here's the things you cannot do. And again, this judge at this time, this is 20 years ago, right, is saying, nah, no cameras in the courtroom at all. right? Jury selection begins on March 4th. May 27th, the 6-man, 6-woman jury is seated. There are also 6 alternates. June 1st, trial begins. So, DeLucci tells jurors they must take care to ensure their actions in and around the courtroom are not misconstrued. The warning comes after juror number 5 spoke to Laci's brother, Brent, at a courthouse security checkpoint on June 18th. Now, juror number 5 was dismissed from the jury, and that was 2 days later. August 10th, Frey testifies that Scott told her he was a widower. This is really important. Was a widower and lied about where he lived and where he traveled. Jurors hear recordings of Scott Peterson and Amber Frey's conversations made by police after she discovered the truth. Because remember, there was a time, if you guys remember, she, of course, stepped forward and she was cooperating with police during a time. Scott Peterson was calling her. They were having long conversations. Apparently, there was like about 23 hours worth of recordings that she was having, these conversations that she was having with Scott Peterson. Some of them talking about how he's like in Paris and enjoying New Year's Eve and like doing all these elaborate things, trying to make it seem like he's really something that he wasn't. But one of the things that she did say to police and on the stand is that he said 5 weeks before she passed, that before Laci went missing, I mean, that he was a widower. And then, of course, he just made up more lies about who he was and what he did and all that stuff. Terrible stuff, all right? Terrible, terrible stuff. Now, I will say this again, though, all right? I will say this. Outside looking in, you take this M trial, you take the unaliving of these 2 innocent lives, you take the trial out of the situation. This is another tale as old as time. Plenty of guys have been out here lying about who they are or how much money they make or, you know, what kind of job they have just to impress a girl. Plenty of guys out there have done that. Doesn't automatically mean admission of guilt. Sure, shows that he's a pathological liar and he's a piece of trash. But when you add, you got to scoot in, you got to click and drag that whole thing. The lives of 2, his wife, and all that, click and drag it right in there as well. Don't that look a little bit suspect? Doesn't that look shady as all get out? Yeah. It's not good. Optically, let's just say. Optically, not looking very good for Scott Peterson. All right? All because he just wanted to get some dates. Okay? Just saying. It's a little weird. Moving on, though. Jury deliberations begin on the 3rd of November. 12th of November, he is found guilty of first-degree M in Laci and in Laci's demise and second-degree M for Connor's demise. December 13th, the jury recommends that Peterson be sentenced to his demise. Pay the ultimate price. And from what we understand, from lethal injection. All right. DeLucci follows the recommendation of the jury and sentences him to his demise. Because, I mean, who would ever do what he's been found guilty of, especially a little boy that didn't even get a chance to see life. Remember, speaking of this kind of scenario, remember we're talking about Savannah Soto and Matthew Guetta. And no, I haven't forgotten about that case. There hasn't been any new developments on that case. When there's more information on that case, we will talk about it. Okay. But again, when the three, remember, three of them have been arrested, Ma, Pa, and the kid. They've all been arrested in the Savannah Soto, Matthew Guetta case. Hopefully they will be looking at some serious time, or they may be looking at the DP, especially the son, allegedly, right? But again, something like that. And they in Texas. Let's not forget that. They're in Texas. The Savannah Soto, Matthew Guetta case. It's Texas. Texas don't play. So they could literally be looking at least the son, could be looking at the ultimate DP as a sentence. That's a good possibility here. But that's interesting with this situation, because this situation was overthrown. Okay. So moving on, Laci's parents. Oops, sorry. Let me go back up here. Sorry. So he was sentenced to his demise. All right. October 21st, a judge rules that proceeds from a $250,000 life insurance policy Scott took out on Laci will go to Laci's mother. Still, that's very interesting. The life insurance policy that Scott Peterson took out on Laci, still very interesting, don't you think? Moving on, April 2009, 4 years later, Laci's parents dropped their wrongful death lawsuit against Peterson. March 13th, we jump a whole decade after they dropped their lawsuit. Governor Newsom signs an executive order issuing a moratorium, on executions of death row inmates in California prisons, including Peterson. In 2020, California Supreme Court overturns his DP sentence. This case is remanded to a lower court to determine his penalty. So the California Supreme Court orders that San Mateo County Superior Court to re-examine Scott Peterson's convictions because a juror did not disclose involvement in other legal proceedings, including but not limited to, quote unquote, being the victim of a crime. The latest ruling is part of an ongoing appeals case, and that was in October of 2020. In 2021, December, he was resentenced to life without the possibility of parole by Judge Masulo. October 2022, Peterson is moved from death row at San Quentin State Prison near San Francisco to Mule Creek State Prison in Ione, California. All right. Peterson's attorney filed a petition for writ of habeas corpus in which they allege violations of state and federal constitutional rights and state statutory rights, including a claim of actual innocence that is supported by newly discovered evidence. Newly discovered evidence. January, now we're here, where Los Angeles Innocence Project says it has begun representing Peterson. The nonprofit says it is investigating Peterson's quote-unquote claim of actual innocence. So that's a whole timeline of all the basically the big strokes, okay, the broad strokes that has happened, starting from when her body was found. So their bodies were found, Connor and Laci's bodies were found, all the way to where we are right now, which is absolutely still really, really interesting and really crazy. Okay. Again, got that poll going on right now. Still, Go vote. Go to the top of the poll. Let me know your thoughts. Don't forget to hit that like button down below. We ain't done yet, okay? We just getting warmed up, all right? But I just wanted to give you guys that information because I found that to be very, very interesting. And again, there's a lot of other things that have been going on that have shown themselves in this, and it's just so weird. Again, they're taking on this case as he seeks new DNA test. So let's take a look at this too. Los Angeles Innocence Project announced Thursday that it's taking up Scott Peterson's murder case as the convicted monster seeks new DNA testing. Pat Harris, Peterson's attorney, announced the news in a statement. We are excited to have the incredibly talented attorneys from the LA Innocence Project lend their considerable expertise to helping prove Scott's innocence. Peterson was convicted. We already know about all of this. This organization is working to exonerate those wrongfully convicted through forensic and other scientific evidence. The organization said it, quote unquote, is investigating his claim of actual innocence, but had no further comment. In documents filed in court, the nonprofit requested prosecutors and law enforcement hand over evidence that was available during the trial. Additionally, lawyers with the LAIP stated that Peterson had an active petition, all right, which we already know of the writ habeas corpus, which is a legal challenge to a prior criminal conviction. The motion was filed in conjunction with Peterson's motion for DNA testing to prove his innocence. Mr. Peterson respectfully requests that the court grant his motion and direct the people provide the requested discovery so that further investigation into the claims set forth in the pending petition can be conducted. All right. And of course, we already know about the reversing of his DP. All right. Let's see. One of the jurors in the trial, Mike, I'll just say his name is Mike for right now, said he stands by the jury's initial verdict, but believes that if there is new evidence, it must be revealed. Now, and I'm curious about that too. What is this? What is this evidence, right? What is this DNA? What is this new evidence that they're talking about? And of course, it makes you wonder, should they actually test that new evidence? You know, it's interesting because it makes you think about all the other cases that huge profile cases that we've seen. I mean, shoot, even going all the way back, even 20 years ago too. Let's not forget about OJ. Let's not forget about OJ. Y'all remember that? One of the first big televised high profile cases. Of course, he was found not guilty. You know, if it don't fit, you must acquit and all that stuff, right? But what if there was new evidence out here? And I'm wondering, what is it with them? Because remember, as we stated earlier, and I agree, no organization, especially an organization that works on people that they believe are wrongfully convicted, they would not go out of their way to pull out a 20-year-old case that's already basically been booked as closed, right? And say, we got to pull up this DNA and we got to test this DNA. They obviously have something worth even looking at. So I say this, personally, I mean, I don't really want to give the man a second chance, right? Or a third, fourth, fifth, whatever, how many chances he's gotten right now. But if they have some DNA that could paint a different story here, that could actually show that he didn't have anything to do with this, then yeah, run it. Run the DNA. Run it. But I guess the other part is, if they have that information, if they have DNA, why wasn't it presented or tested before? Or was it presented? Was it tested before? And we're all just they kept it under wraps, and now we're all just hearing about it now. Again, I got questions. But at the same time, if you got new evidence, I mean, shoot. Run it. And prove us wrong. But it better be smoking gun stuff, right? So it says, if there's something new, it's something we didn't hear, he said. I think that would be unfortunate. If anybody was manipulating the evidence or not being honest, and Scott ended up spending 20 years in prison, well, there's something wrong with that picture. And again, we talked about it a second ago. Just because he's a lying sack and, shut your mouth, does not automatically mean that he's a bad guy. He's a bad guy, but it doesn't mean that he's a monster, right? Doesn't automatically mean that he is guilty because of his infidelity, guilty because he's been lying. But at the same time, whatever they had against him, and you look at the timeline, you look at all that stuff that we've heard as far as other evidence, the fact that he tried to run all that stuff, it needs to be some solid stuff for me to think otherwise. And I think a lot of you guys, mass majority of you guys, are thinking the same thing too. What? Right? But Peterson was uniformly described as a loving husband and expectant father, Harris said, until it became public that he was having an affair with Amber Fry at the time of his wife's disappearance. Isn't that interesting? Then he quickly became the most hated man in America. Prosecutors said Peterson took his wife's body from their Modesto home on Christmas Eve 2002 and dumped her from his fishing boat into the San Francisco Bay, where they washed ashore on April 2003. Now, what's interesting is that he admitted that he was fishing on the day that his wife disappeared. He had researched ocean currents, bought a boat without telling anyone, and could not explain what type of fish he was trying to catch that day. Now, the thing is, you see what I'm saying? It just doesn't, it's not equating. And another thing, too, there were eyewitnesses, neighbors that were saying that they saw him talking, they talked to him as he was packing stuff up into his car, being real neighborly, saying that he was going off golfing when that's not at all what he was doing. He was going to go fishing because that's exactly what he ended up doing. He didn't go play golf. He went to go fit. He went to go fish. No. Also, weeks after Laci disappeared, he sold his wife's car, looked into selling their house, and turned the baby nursery into a storage room. Peterson was eventually arrested after Frey, a massage therapist living in Fresno, told police that they had begun dating a month before his wife's demise, but that he told her that his wife was actually gone, that she had passed away again. Interesting. Okay? It's just very weird. And of course, he's telling people, "Oh, I was going golfing," when he actually was going fishing. Then on top of that, let's not forget the other pieces of information, okay? That they were saying that, where is it? He admitted that he was fishing on the day that she disappeared in the same area in which she washed up in. He was researching ocean currents. He bought a boat without telling anyone. Like, and buying a boat is a big ass deal. Do you know what I'm saying? I'm sorry. Any person I know that has a boat is somehow in some sort of way gets introduced or brought into a conversation. You could be talking about the birds, and somebody be like, "Yeah, those birds are beautiful. Not like the birds I saw on my yacht." You know what I'm saying? Like, you people out here talking about boats. Okay? People are in here like talking about boats all day long. All right? If you got a boat, that is a status symbol. I don't even care if it's a dinghy, a pontoon. You still got a boat. You got something that floats on water. Okay? And you're telling me that he didn't let anybody know that he got a new boat? Then he didn't even know what he was fishing for? Like, make that make sense. Like I said, there's too many things that are stacking up that say something else. That say they got their guy. That him guilty. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. Like I said, there was so much, because this is a story that's been going on for a while, or had gone on for a while. This story is so thick that I would need more time, okay, to give you all of that. But, the theory that the cops could have been out here withholding information and trying to stop from certain truths to come out and all that. I mean, I don't know about all that, but it's not far-fetched. It's not a far-fetched idea, but it's just interesting. So again, if they got new evidence, show us the Carfax. I haven't said that in a long time. Show us the Carfax. Trust me, I'm very interested to see what they got. And I know there's a lot of people that are speculating and putting out information, of what could that evidence be, or, could it really be smoking gun evidence and all that? But at the same time, we will see. I got a couple of videos that I want to share with you guys. All right. Sarah just said he straight up called his mistress from his pregnant wife's vigil. Yes, he did. I forgot about, oh my God. Like I said, there's so much to this story. Like, you know what I'm saying? You hear about this story years ago and you're like, oh my Lord. And at that time, I wasn't doing, if I was doing true crime at that time, 20 years ago, man, we'd have a national television show right now. Trust and believe. If I started doing this 20 years ago, man, number one podcast. You know what I'm saying? Just saying. But back then, I remember those like little pieces of information. Like I said, there's just breadcrumbs that just keep stacking up. And this thing is thicker than a Snicker. All right. But 99.9% of prisoners believe that they're innocent. Let's not forget that. All right. But I think that they have their guy. But if you got new evidence, go ahead and run it. Because hopefully it exposes more truth, or solidifies that the person that they have behind bars is indeed the right guy. Let's take a look at this video. All right. Hit the number one. Let me know you guys can hear this. Let's rock and roll.
All right. Remember Scott Peterson? Everybody thought he was guilty. That's what most of America thought. A California jury sure thought so. He was convicted of the 2002 murder of his 8-month pregnant wife, Laci. But now the notorious killer has spent years fighting for a new shot at freedom, and tonight he's enlisted an influential ally. The Los Angeles Innocence Project has taken up his case. The group says its mission is to free wrongfully incarcerated people, and it is seeking new evidence from Peterson's original trial nearly 20 years ago. This is the latest development in a case that's made headlines for years, has been the subject of so many made-for-TV movies. Peterson was convicted in 2004. He was initially sentenced to death, but the death sentence was overturned in 2020. So Peterson is now serving life without the possibility of parole. But now even that might not be certain. For more on today's developments, we're joined by News Nation correspondent Laura Ingle, who's covered this story from the very start. Okay, what does this mean for Peterson?
Hey, Elizabeth, you know, this could mean a possible second chance for a new trial. Now, we just received a statement from the LA Innocence Project confirming they are now representing Scott Peterson and is investigating his claim of actual innocence. Scott Peterson and his family have been working for nearly 2 decades to get him a new trial, saying for years someone else is responsible for the deaths of his pregnant wife, Laci, and unborn son, Connor. And the evidence that was found with their bodies is a big part of what the LA Innocence Project wants tested and retested for DNA. The world, of course, was captivated by the story of the missing mother-to-be from Modesto, California, when she vanished on Christmas Eve in 2002. Her husband, Scott Peterson, was quickly a suspect in the public eye and with the police after an affair with a massage therapist named Amber Fry became public. Well, after his conviction and his death sentence was overturned, Peterson was moved to a prison in Ione, California. That's just outside of Sacramento, where he has continued his legal battle with the help of his sister-in-law, Janie Peterson, who has led the charge working to get him a new trial. And last year, Janie...
Let me just say this really quick. I am very shocked that his own sister-in-law is, I mean, look at what she's got behind her right here. This all has to do with the case. And so, like, it's very shocking to me that his own sister-in-law is stepping forward. You know, I guess things you'll do for family, I guess, right? But she really does believe that this man is innocent. And again, there's still a corner of the world. There's still a side of the world that believes that they have the wrong guy. I mean, this is an ongoing discussion right now. People are still going, did he do it? Did he not do it? Do we believe him? Like, you know, is it an innocent guy locked up or not? Shoot, there's a lot of people that believe that he's innocent. It's wild. Let's continue.
Peterson showed me her war room down in the San Diego area, where she and a team of supporters have outlined the timeline and evidence in the case they believe points to burglars who broke into the home directly across the street from where the Petersons lived the very day Laci went missing, and believe they kidnapped and killed her. Just yesterday, the LA Innocence Project filed a motion with the San Mateo courts, over 800 pages long, requesting DNA testing of evidence for the first time and retesting DNA, which includes items recovered or near the bodies of Laci and Connor, which washed ashore in the San Francisco Bay, including a Target bag that was recovered near the remains of Laci and a 50-inch long tape or twine recovered from the neck of Connor Peterson. The LA Innocence Project also wants several items recovered from a van that may have been used by those burglars that was found in an alley near the Petersons' home.
Hold on. I'm rolling that all back. But yes, she said sister-in-law. Sister-in-law, not sister. Okay? Just so you guys know. Sister-in-law. But very interesting. And yeah. I'm still trying to understand. Let me just, because that's one detail I guess I have not gotten clear for myself. Because just so you know, and you know, T-dubs for a second here, but remains, a small body was found. A baby's remains were found, were washed up, right? They were found. The next day, there was another body that was found, and that was that of Laci. And that's one piece I'm still trying to understand. Was the baby born and then this unthinkable happened? Or did something happen while she was underwater? I'm still wondering that part. Okay. And I find that very, very interesting. No, and let me just say that really quick. Yes, let me make that abundantly clear. It's his brother's wife. Okay, because her last name is Peterson. All right, sister-in-law. Okay, so sister-in-law, not Laci's sister, Because if it was Laci's sister, that would be very interesting, right? But no. Sister-in-law, brother got married. That's his brother's wife, just so you know, okay? Just to make that abundantly clear. Sister-in-law, her last name is Peterson as well, okay? She believes that her brother-in-law is innocent. So I'm going to roll that back because there's some items that they did say in there. In fact, I'm going to roll all the way back so you guys can hear about the sister-in-law one more again. But I do find this to be very, very interesting. Okay. Nonetheless, very, very interesting. Okay. Do me a favor, guys. Don't forget to hit that like button down below, please, and thank you. Okay. Show some love. Hit that subscribe button. We're almost at 400 likes. Okay. So hit that like button down below. Don't forget to hit that reaction button if you're watching on Facebook. And of course, follow me on all my platforms and all that stuff too. Okay. Please and thank you. All right. But let's get into this. Oh, actually, let me get these super chats real quick. Got 2 of them. K-Bragg, thank you so much for the 5. He got a guilty mouth. How you smirk through a frown. Demonic. I think it's weird, especially with his Diane Sawyer interview. If you remember that, his whole interview with Diane Sawyer was just it was sus. It's cringy as F, y'all. Cringy. Okay. K-Bragg, thank you again for the 5. Waits for the manosphere to add free Scott to their list. I'm done. I'm going to say he was smashing the sister-in-law too. Wow. She said that, not me. Woo! You coming in hot, K-Bragg. But I don't know. I don't know. All I know is that she believes that this man is innocent. I'm going to leave it at that. Y'all can speculate all you want on that. Let's continue.
Laci Peterson, who has led the charge.
Hold on.
He has continued his legal battle with the help of his sister-in-law, Janie Peterson, who has led the charge working to get him a new trial. And last year, Janie Peterson showed me her war room down in the San Diego area where she and a team of supporters have outlined the timeline and evidence in the case they believe points to burglars who broke into the home directly across the street from where the Petersons live.
So they believe burglars were involved in this situation. Hence the reason why that there's been talk of about other items other than just what's being listed here. Apparently there's like a burnt up van and all this stuff, right? That they want more. They want to get their hands on all the evidence because they believe that Laci was taken by a burglar, by some other monster, and it's not Scott. It's very weird. Again, very, very weird. Let's continue.
Very day Laci went missing and believe they kidnapped and killed her. Just yesterday, the LA Innocence Project filed a motion with the San Mateo courts over 800 pages long requesting DNA testing of evidence for the first time and retesting DNA, which includes items recovered or near the bodies of Laci and Connor, which washed ashore in the San Francisco Bay, including a Target bag that was recovered near the remains of Laci and a 50-inch long tape or twine recovered from the neck of Connor Peterson.
Do you hear that? Taper twine that was around the little kid's neck, right? Bags and all that. Very interesting, nonetheless, right? So they want to run all those tests. Let me continue. We got a few more things. We got miles to go. Let's go.
The LA Innocence Project also wants several items recovered from a van that may have been used by those burglars that was found in an alley near the Petersons' home.
Remember,
Elizabeth.
All right. Thanks so.
Remember, they said a van that was in the area as well. They allegedly are wanting to get their hands on that kind of stuff too. Like I said, more and more evidence that apparently they say that was just left like on the table, that was actually not even on the table. It is interesting. Nonetheless, it is very interesting. We got more. We got commentary, etc. So we're going to be looking at we got a bunch of things we got to look at here. Okay. We got a juror from the trial speaking out. So let's take a look at that.
All right. So let's get another perspective on this. Okay. A juror who sat on this case back in 2004. All right. Former trial juror, former cop, Mike Balmessieri joins us now. Mike, thank you very much for joining us.
¿Cómo está?
I was going to say, buonasera, you know, and of course he says, hi, in Italian, of course.
Yeah, abbastanza bene, e lei?
Very molto bene, grazie.
So let's start with the robbery.
Tell me you're Italian without telling me you're Italian. You know what I'm saying? Hey. Mama spaghetti, forget about it. Let's go.
Familiar with this. There was a discrepancy. Garagos, argued it could have happened at the same time, that the prosecution was wrong to say that it happened after the fact. What was your take, if you recall, about the robbery and whether you felt or why you felt it wasn't a compelling alternative explanation?
Well, it's only been 20 years, so excuse me if I'm not as accurate as I should be, but it was my understanding at this point that happened prior to her disappearance, and that the Modesto PD had investigated that issue and cleared those individuals who were involved in that burglary.
Right. Laci was reported missing on the 24th. The cops believe that the robbers committed the robbery on the 26th, but there's discrepancy about that. But do you remember how strong the feeling was in the jury room that, as Mark Garagos would turn the phrase, that Peterson was good for this conviction, that he had done it?
Well, here's what I'll tell you. 5.5 months worth of trial, about 100 witnesses, testimony, and evidence. That's why Scott Peterson is in San Quentin now. And there's no other reason. I will agree with Mr. Garagos and so many that public opinion was turned against Scott Peterson.
Mm-hmm.
And quite frankly, that's the media's fault. They shouldn't be getting involved in cases where the investigations are ongoing, because it creates issues within communities. Scott Peterson is in prison now for killing his wife because 12 citizens who never knew each other before this case came to an agreement, a unanimous agreement based on evidence and testimony. And I will tell you this, during that deliberation, if I heard it said many times, what purpose will it serve to convict Scott Peterson of killing his wife and child if he didn't do it?
He's got a point.
He's already had a great loss.
He's got a point. But there's some other things that you can throw into the mix. I'll talk about that in just a minute.
I'm glad that this group is taking up the Peterson case and investigating it, because if there's new evidence that suggests he's innocent, then he's innocent. If
I wouldn't say innocent. I wouldn't say innocent. Sometimes they do that. They find DNA that proves it wasn't this person, or they find evidence that he was wrongly convicted, which is different potentially than innocent. Innocent is he didn't do it.
And there's a possibility that he could have paid a dude off to do this, and then he moved the remains himself. That could be it too. This could be an M for hire type of situation. Let's continue.
Wrongly convicted is the prosecution didn't do its job the right way, but it is good to hear that you're open to the new trial. So we'll follow it together, and I'll have you back on.
You bring up an interesting point about the point of not guilty and innocent, because there are two different variables there. You're absolutely right. But if he is found innocent or not guilty, that'll open up an entirely different emotion, because here we would have a man who has spent 20 years incarcerated for something he
Right.
didn't do.
But that's not on you. That's not on you. You were there to judge the facts and testimony as they were presented to you by the prosecution.
True.
Whether they did their job the right way is not on you. Your job was to deal with what was presented, and you did that, and I thank you for it. And we'll watch what happens here together. We'll speak again.
Yeah. I do appreciate the conversation here. Because yeah, I mean, let's be real. All of us, even myself included, feel like they got their guy. Their guy is locked up. Sure. If they try to retry this because of this new DNA and it opens up a whole can of worms of whatever, it doesn't automatically mean that this guy is 110% innocent. He may be innocent of maybe not his hands, like it's not him who actually did the act, but at the same time, there's still possibilities of him paying somebody, him moving the bodies. I mean, there's so many different things that could be a possibility here. It doesn't fully exonerate and make him fully innocent. The only problem is that if he was to be tried again, and if it does happen, and he's found innocent, not guilty, let's just say, of doing these things that he's been in behind bars for 20 years for, it'll only bring up more questions of what actually really happened. Who is the person? Is he really the person or not? And that, I think, will be really crappy. But at the same time, though, if they got new evidence, test it. I don't see any problem with testing it, in my personal opinion. But let me play this again one more time.
And I will tell you this, during that deliberation, if I heard it said many times, what purpose will it serve to convict Scott Peterson of killing his wife and child if he didn't do it? He's already had a great loss.
This is the part that I wanted to point out. I think this is one of the things that the Innocence Project is trying to push a lot too. There's a possibility that laziness from investigations. It's easy to pin this on him. Like I said, I'm just dressing it up and playing it on the side of what if 5-0 got lazy and they just wanted to pin it on somebody because they needed to pin it on somebody. So they let a few things like evidence and whatnot that could maybe go down another beaten path. They push those off to the side and say, this is the evidence that we have here. And a lot of it is looks at Scott Peterson hard, right? So there is a possibility of that. Real talk. There is a good possibility of that. But does that mean that's what the police did? I don't know. But again, he's right. Why would they convict an innocent dude when he's already lost so much already? The only reason why they most likely came up with their verdict is because of the things that were presented to them in court, and that alone. Why would they go and just destroy this innocent guy's life when he's lost two people that he, well, I guess, allegedly loved dearly, right? Just because he was out here, walking out on his wife does not automatically mean he didn't care for his wife's life and the life of his unborn son. It doesn't. But at the same time, a lot of evidence was thrown at the jury, was thrown out in the courtroom, showing that this man was this is not a good guy. Okay. But again, like I said, if they want to run it, if they want to run that DNA, run that DNA. Run it. Will it exonerate him? I don't know. We will definitely see. I got more here though. Hold on real quick. K Bragg, thank you so much for the 5 again. Sister-in-law still thirsty for Scott after all these years. It's giving Vivica Fox. I'm done. Vivica Fox. Wow. You just I'm done. Oh, dear Lord, I'm done. But yes, it's very interesting, guys. All right. GB, thank you so much for the comment. I'm just reading you guys' comments here really quick. We got some other videos we're going to look at. Don't forget to hit that like button down below, please, and thank you. Okay, please, please, please. Let's get it past 500 likes. Or sorry, 400 likes. I said that's the goal. We're almost there. Okay, but FBI was there within 48 hours to find Laci. I do not believe police was lazy. They had around the clock searches for Laci and Connor. You're right. I mean, I'm sure they did. But once they did, it's not the laziness of them looking for Laci and Connor. That's not what I'm talking about. It's pinning the evidence to Scott. You got to remember, a lot of it looks really, really bad optically, already making Scott look like the bad guy because of a slew of different reasons, right? There could be a possibility that there might be some more information or DNA or evidence that they may have scooted off to the side because it's like, yeah, we don't need that. We got all this right here. We got all this right here. Let's just push this out more. Push this to the side. Nobody needs to see this bag and this twine and this tape and all this stuff. We don't need all that stuff. We don't need the van. Let's push all that stuff to the side. Let's keep it here. He done did the thing. Here's the evidence. Push the narrative that way, right? That could be it. But then again, there could be 1, 2, 3, maybe a multitude of evidence that hasn't really been presented that could literally exonerate this guy. Just because he's a jerk, just because he's a son of a gun, okay? Lowest of the low type of dude, does not automatically mean him guilty. Like I said, I'm just playing the other side of the fence. I think they got their guy, him guilty in my personal opinion. All right. This dude is diabolical in my personal opinion. All right. There's a lot more going on here than we know. And I think police did their job. I think the courts did their job. I think they got their guy. But we'll see. We will see. I got more. Geraldo has something to say.
Check in with Geraldo Rivera, veteran award-winning journalist who was long the dean of covering crime. His show, Rivera Live,
haberdashery. Moving on.
Was the crime show in America at the time. When I got to fill in on Rivera Live, it was like the highlight of my career at the time. Ashley Banfield is with us, host of Banfield on News Nation, who, of course, has become one of the leading crime reporters in addition to anchoring her show, and Jesse Weber. He's an attorney and anchor for the Law and Crime Network. He follows all of these stories closely, also a News Nation legal contributor. All right, Geraldo, let me get your first thoughts on this motion and the fact that the LA Innocence Project has taken the case.
You know, that is the shocking thing to me, why this otherwise very reputable organization would stoop to take a case from a person who is so obviously guilty. In the litany of you know, him saying he's golfing and he's really fishing and all the rest that you recited, Dan, one other thing is, remember, he was caught on the Mexican border with dyed hair and $15,000 in cash, heading for parts south.
Parts unknown.
You know, a reverse commute, so to speak, in terms of the what's going on. So there is Scott Peterson, this skunk, this you know, a lion dog, trying to put it on a burglary across the street that was thoroughly investigated. I don't see how does he get witnesses, photos, videos, new DNA, all of which was available to Mark Aragos at the time. Now he's trying to relitigate a case that was a slam dunk. There's a good reason he was condemned to die. This heartless person kills his pregnant wife, President Bush passing a law declaring that a fetus is a person, and at least insofar as a murder trial is concerned. So there he goes. He's sentenced to die, San Quentin prison, living a cushy life, pumping iron, playing basketball, and now he has these great attorneys in his corner trying to raise hell.
Let me just say this really quick. Geraldo just called him a skunk. I'm sorry. That's a new one for me. I've never heard anyone call anyone a skunk. But he really did call him a skunk. Woo! And his face, it seems like his face just changed a whole color of red. But yeah, he ain't wrong. I mean, he's like, this is ridiculous. Ridiculous that this skunk is even getting a chance at a retrial, maybe. That's ridiculous. He called him a skunk. Geraldo from downtown.
So let me read you from the court filing, all right? Because one of the things they say is that new evidence, right? The key is the new evidence shows Laci was abducted but not killed on December 24th, 2002. On December 28th, 2002, they say eyewitness Tom Harshman, this is number 5, reported to police that he'd just seen a pregnant woman fitting Laci Peterson's description being pushed into a van earlier that day, just north of La Loma Park. 2 witnesses reported that a man referred to hearing his DM had confessed to them that he took part in Laci's abduction, which happened because she caught DM and others burglarizing the Medina's home, and they had to shut her up. So they killed her and took her body and dumped it at the place where Scott Peterson went fishing, which they had heard about on the news. That is sort of the heart of the defense's theory here.
Now, let me just roll that back because this is huge, okay? An eyewitness reported to police he had seen a pregnant woman fitting Laci Peterson's description being pushed into a van earlier that day, just north of this park. 2 witnesses reported that a man referred to herein as DM had confessed to them that he took part in her taking, which happened because she caught DM and others burglarizing the Medina's home, and that they shut her up, so they unalived her, took her body, and dumped it at a place where Scott Peterson went fishing, which they had heard about on the news. Very interesting. Very interesting. So from an eyewitness, that's interesting, right? And I would say, hey, okay, even though I do feel like they got their guy, okay, fine. But why would it be? How is it convenient that they would take her to the exact same body of water that Scott Peterson happens to be golfing at? Because he's supposed to be fishing, or he was supposed to be golfing, but he was fishing at the same time. That area at the same time on a boat that he told no one that he bought. That's interesting, right? Interesting. And thank you. Yes, it's Amber Fry. I didn't mean Fry. Okay, I may have misspoke, but Amber Fry. Thank you, guys.
The defense is.
I find that interesting.
Here,
that's all.
Yeah, listen, I think it's a really good thing for Scott Peterson that he had his death penalty commuted, except it ended up being a really bad thing for Scott Peterson, because suddenly all the money that you get to fight your automatic death penalty appeals disappears. So now suddenly Scott Peterson has to pay for all of this. Anything he wants to do to fight where he's at in that, as Geraldo says, cushy San Quentin setup, he has to pay for that. So it's a really good thing, again, that the Innocence Project stepped in, because last I checked, you don't have to pay for it. But I see your point. I see your point. There is a lot of evidence that Geraldo pointed out that it looks like a slam dunk, you know, obviously for Scott Peterson. But if you look at all the things that were omitted, it does start to look like there's a scintilla, just a scintilla of reasonable doubt. And as you all know, that is what you need in a case, is a little hint of reasonable doubt. And we all know, OJ, you don't even need to be too reasonable.
Except that now the trial was 18 years ago, right? I mean, you can't start relitigating the whole trial. Let me actually play you. I had one of the original detectives on the case on my show last night, John Bueller. And he addressed this specific question about the burglary. Let's listen.
Okay.
The burglars were cleared, of course, from involvement with Laci. We could never find any clear connection between them and Laci. Property from not only that burglary was all recovered, along with property from unrelated burglaries. In addition to that, we had a large reward in effect during this case, which grew to $500,000. And to think that anybody who was involved in the disappearance of Laci wouldn't roll on one of their cohorts to collect that money is kind of a fantasy for me. I welcome them to DNA test more evidence. Feel free to do it. I have no doubt we got the right guy.
Jesse Weber, I mean,
Okay.
the new evidence just seems to be additional people who have come forward in some way, shape, or form. The Innocence Project saying in one of the points in the filing, oh, we're having a lot of trouble getting people to talk to us. Well, that's not enough 18 years later.
Couple of things before we even get into that. You buried the lead. Not only an all-star panel, great hair panel. I was looking at this. I was getting distracted for a second. But anyway, to your point.
Really? Okay.
Look, this is 18 years later. I mean, look at this. It's fantastic. But 18 years later, DNA has changed.
Thank you for watching.
He went. It's his time to say get his 2 minutes in, and he says, "Great hair, all across the board, great hair." But yeah, ha 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 ha. Yeah, but a lot of hairspray. Yeah, Vic, all that hairspray. You know what I mean? Nothing but fake tans, hairspray, and Botox. It is what it is. But sure, the evidence in the eyewitness piece. Where is that again? I need to find it again. That is very interesting. This eyewitness piece. But then we hear from another eyewitness saying that they were having a conversation with Scott Peterson, and Scott Peterson said he was going to go golfing. He apparently had a bunch of stuff in his hands, nothing that resembled golf clubs, but he was going to go golfing. He ended up going fishing. Then the remains are found in the same body of water. Again, like I said, it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense, and I get it. Sometimes you don't want everybody knowing your every single last move, but why would you just disclose that information anyway, that you're going golfing if you're really not going golfing? So I'm just saying it just doesn't make any full-on sense in my personal opinion, okay? But we got more.
The reason reputation matters is that it sends a message. And when the Innocence Project takes a case, it sends a message. I would have never guessed that they would have any interest in Scott Peterson.
Me
It seemed
too,
like
man.
a slam dunk, okay?
It's a done
But
deal.
now they're looking at this case from back in 2002. You'll remember it. I mean, I don't know how old you are, but if you just Google it, 2002, Laci, 8 months pregnant, pretty wife, pretty guy, pretty life, but underneath that, an ugly reality. She winds up dead. The baby and she are found some months later. He's brought up on charges. There's all this drama. Could we have gotten it wrong? Could the jury have gotten it wrong? Let's bring in News Nation correspondent, one of the first reporters to cover the Scott Peterson case, Laura Ingle. And we're double fortunate tonight. You got Ingle, who was using my office today, so nothing better be missing. And we have News Nation legal analyst, Sarah Azari, whom you all know, who happens to be dug in on this case. And she is not just a criminal attorney, as you know, she's the host of the Presumption podcast. All right, so this is fortuitous. Thank you to both. So, Ingle, just give us a little bit of background flavor about how deeply you analyze this case from soup to nuts.
When this case first started, I, like many others, were completely, infatuated with finding out what happened with Laci Peterson, this beautiful pregnant woman missing from Modesto. I'm from Sacramento, California. I was working in Los Angeles at the time for KFI Radio, and immediately wanted to go up there, which I did, and stood outside and reported outside of the Petersons' home while the search was on for her. And then there was the search center that was brought about with the friends and the family, the frantic desperate search for Laci Peterson was underway. So I was there from the beginning, and I ended up covering every day of that trial in Redwood City, eventually getting an apartment, moving to Redwood City for the duration of the trial and the sentencing phase so that I would never miss a day of it, so we could talk about all of the people that were there, the people that went and visited Scott Peterson when this was going on. And then last year, that clip you just showed, I went back to Covina Avenue in Modesto, where I went back and kind of took a reset of what it was like to be in the Modesto neighborhood where Laci Peterson went missing. And again, we heard that her husband, Scott Peterson, said that she was about to go out and walk a dog, their dog, Mackenzie. And we've got this other narrative going on that has been going on since that week of Christmas of 2002, that a burglary across the street that happened around the same time that she was supposed to go out for that walk could have something to do with it.
Yeah. And of course, there is that conversation saying, okay, not only did Scott Peterson go off to go golfing, to go fishing, right, in this boat that no one knew he actually owned, she was supposed to go walk her dog, or she was going off and walking her dog. Apparently, they said that, or witnesses said that they saw the dog in the front yard with the leash still attached to its collar, with no one walking the dog, which of course, obviously, comes to make people speculate about her being just basically snatched out of nowhere. Now, that could go with what was read earlier with Dan Abrams when he was saying, yeah, eyewitnesses said that they saw that, like, there was somebody matching her description being pushed into a van, right? And then of course that's when she was unalived and all that stuff, right? So that I can see that kind of timeline or that narrative look that way. But again, I just still find it very interesting that the same place that he was off boating in his boat to go fishing at, she was still discarded. Both she and little baby were discarded in the same body of water. I just find it very interesting, okay, to say the least. Real quick, I just want to pull this up, and I'm going to finish this, but I know a lot of people are still kind of talking about this, all right? But I want to share this with you guys so that we have some correctness here, okay? But this is the Los Angeles Innocence Project. Los Angeles Innocence Project, okay? So I wanted to share this with you guys because there's just the Innocence Project, which is here, but this is the Los Angeles Innocence Project, exonerating the wrongfully convicted. Still the same stuff. LAIP's mission to exonerate the wrongly convicted, free the wrongfully incarcerated, uncover and remedy past misuse of forensic and other scientific evidence in the courtroom, improve standards for the use of forensic and other scientific evidence in the courtroom, and reform the criminal legal system to prevent future injustice. So, just to make that abundantly clear, this is another one. This is the Los Angeles Innocence Project. Okay, from my understanding, there's a big awning, and they're in many different areas. Okay, or they're in many different states under many different, that like have other chapters. Okay, just so you guys know. Let's continue on, though.
All right, so let's hold there, and then from this point on, let's do it this way. Let's just go point for point, because Sarah has gone through all of the offerings and the pleadings from the Innocence Project, and she says it's much more comprehensive than she expected, frankly. So let's go point for point. Sarah, so what do you believe the big headline is about why the Innocence Project is on this case?
I mean, Chris, I think that typically in a habeas action, or the motions related to habeas, we see one or two bases for the wrongful conviction. Here, I was floored There's everything in here. There is the fact that there were other suspects and related incidents that were not investigated that relate to that burglary, and potentially those suspects were the killers. We've got exculpatory Brady evidence, and that duty extends beyond the conviction. Things that were not turned over. And I'm old enough, unfortunately, to remember this trial, and Laura probably remembers too. It was a daily event during this trial that the defense kept objecting. Hey, witnesses testifying. Well, where's that report? Didn't turn it over. It was a daily event. And so though that was exculpatory evidence, we've got tips and leads that were not followed, and that the prosecutor was having a romantic relationship with a law enforcement on the same case.
Tabloid city, guys.
I mean, that's not a light matter. There was a recent case in Kentucky, a murder case that was thrown out because of that issue. So everything is, and I am just floored.
Hey, thank you for watching.
That's really crazy. Again, still, if that information is true and all that, does it? I don't know. I still believe that they got their guy. That's just my thoughts, in my own opinion. One more.
A half-month pregnant woman learns her husband has had an affair and is saintly and casual about it, accommodating, makes a peace with it.
Well, you don't know. No one knows our relationship but us. And that's at peace with it, not happy about it.
The LA Innocence Project has now taken on Scott Peterson as a client. He was convicted back in 2004. He got the death penalty in 2005. The death penalty was taken off the table based on some procedural issues that had happened during jury selection. But he is still convicted now and serving a life sentence. The question is, why is the LA Innocence Project taking on this case? They say there's new evidence that could prove that Scott Peterson is innocent. Back with me, Geraldo Rivera, veteran.
Really quick, before we go into haberdashery, the very beginning here, I just wanted to show you guys this again. I mean, this is an interview that he had with Diane Sawyer, okay, in 2003. And I'm saying right now, why would you do an interview? Whether you are innocent or not, why would you do an interview? To me, I feel that's it's disturbing in my personal opinion. Again, I'm going to say it again. Why would you have an interview? Why would you agree to doing something like that? First one says money. I'm sure he got money for it and he needs it for his, I'm sure at that time, legals and stuff like that too. But at the same time, optically, it's just not smart. It's just not. Do you realize that if he was found not guilty and then he does this exclusive interview, that's another conversation, right? That's a whole other conversation. Then it's like he can smirk, he can do whatever the hell he wants. But when you got somebody on here and everyone's looking at you as the bad guy, and they're looking at they're listening to every word that comes out of your mouth. They're listening to how you say it. They're looking at your face to see if you got a weird twitch when you say something. If you smile or smirk a little bit during the interview, this is the wrong time to be doing any kind of interview at all. And yet he agrees to sit down and do this interview. It is the most idiotic thing I've ever heard. Ever. Whether you are innocent or not, you don't jump onto the first interview with Diane Sawyer and start talking. Because everyone's going to analyze you with a fine-tooth comb. Just being real. It's very dumb, in my personal opinion. Very, very dumb. No one's going to believe you. No one is. Sorry. People will believe you when you are found not guilty, when you have the evidence. You don't say anything. You see what I'm saying? I could see family of the missing or the deceased. You see what I'm saying? Families of the victims and all that talking in these interviews, totally fine. But the person that that's being looked at right now shouldn't be talking to nobody. They should keep their doggone mouth shut and wait for that trial to do its thing. Don't try to run. Don't try to do all this crazy stuff. Don't be dumb. It's insane, guys.
Back with me, Geraldo Rivera, veteran journalist, Ashley Banfield, host of Banfield on News Nation, and Jesse Weber, News Nation legal contributor. Ashley, the defense always says when talking about this case that the only reason Scott Peterson got convicted is because he was having an affair, right? That's always been the argument. But in my view, what they don't focus on is the things that he said to Amber Frey, right? It wasn't just the fact that he was having an affair with Amber Frey. It was the fact that he was talking about the fact that his wife was gone before she was missing, that at the memorial service, he's pretending he's in Europe, etc.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not just an affair. And that is stuff that I'm surprised the LA Innocence Project doesn't seem to be focusing on.
It's very, very inconvenient. But I have covered cases before that curled my hair more than today. Cases that I thought were absolute slam dunk. One in particular in Rhode Island where the cop was having an affair and the girlfriend got a letter from the cop saying, the girlfriend sent a letter to the cop saying, I'm going to tell your wife. And she ended up dead that night. That's a slam dunk to me. And his DNA is all over the place. And he was innocent because some random guy from her past broke into her upstairs window and raped her and killed her. And it really opened my eyes to, it doesn't matter how many coincidences there are. It can look really, really awful. And it does. I agree with Geraldo. Scott Peterson looks like about the most guilty guy I've ever come across. But so did the Rhode Island cop. And so sometimes something comes along like that van and the mattress and the rag that was in the fuel tank of the van and the fire on Christmas Day and the witness who says, I saw a pregnant lady getting shoved in a van, Chris, those are also a lot of coincidences. And perhaps today, 2 decades later, we have such, far more sophisticated DNA testing that they see a possibility here that Laci was in that van.
Again, I get it. Because again, there's a lot of coincidences on a lot of other cases that we have talked and covered on this show. Plenty of situations where all things are going down a certain line of guilty, and then only to find out that he ain't the bad guy at all. I mean, shoot, we're talking about the Kansas City Chiefs fans that were found frozen in the backyard, right? And there's a lot of stuff that's looking that makes it look like the owner, okay, or the renter of that house, he's starting to look like he's guilty as hell, right? And it could all just be coincidences. Very, very true. So when we hear about this, yes, it doesn't hurt, I guess, to look at the new evidence, at least take a glance at it, just run it and just see what it is. But if it comes back negative, if it comes back that DNA is not hers and it's not on the mattress from the van or any of those things, then there's no reason, right? There's no reason to try to retry or anything, because that would mean they got their guy. But yes, there's plenty of situations where coincidences actually are just coincidences. But if I learned anything from Law and Order SVU, there ain't no such thing as coincidences. But I don't know. It's very interesting. Let's go.
The problem is you also have to believe that he was framed. Right. I mean, it can't just be somebody else did it.
That's not hard, Dan.
What?
No, that is not hard. I have often believed Mark Garagos when he says it was the most high-profile case of the day.
Right.
Everyone talked about the San Francisco Bay and the fishing spot.
But here's the thing,
It's convenient for killers to drop her there.
Right, except they would have had to have held the body, right? So supposedly these guys are burglaring the house across the street, right? She interrupts it. They kill her or abduct her, and they decide, let's hold the body until we can figure out where Scott Peterson was so we can then dump the body there.
That's a good point. Bit odd.
That's the part about it that makes it absurd.
I disagree with you. Move the body. Different verb. Move the body. Very, very easy. They could have stashed that body anywhere and then move the body to say, now we're in the clear. I know, again, it defies a lot of logic, and you do have to make some mental jumps.
Why?
Because then it definitely looks like Scott Peterson, and then they're in the clear.
I hate to point out the obvious.
So they murdered her for what reason?
One at a time.
The potential
They
burglars
dumped it
here
and moved it.
But the potential burglars here who were cleared were not criminal masterminds. If you look at their background.
Yeah, they a bunch of dumbasses. Let's move on.
Dan, they weren't the most sophisticated.
And they had other stuff with them from other burglaries.
Yeah, I don't think those are the people that are going to do that. Now, is it certainly possible? I will tell you the way that I look at this, and I've had this conversation recently since Scott Peterson's name has been in the news. Yes, the Innocence Project thinks they might have something. But if you were to try Scott Peterson today, you might not get a guilty verdict. I spoke to people yesterday who go, I don't know who this guy is. Oh, isn't that from Gone Girl? They don't know about this.
Right.
That's hilarious. That's hilarious.
And the evidence might be different today.
They would get a conviction today.
You believe that?
100%. Thank you.
Yeah, it's fascinating to see, to hear other people put in their 2 cents like about this, because, if this whole thing was retried again in this day and age now, would he be found? Would he be convicted? Would he be found guilty of this? I leave that question up to you guys. I think that he would definitely be found guilty because there's just too much. There's too much evidence already being stacked up against him. I just don't see how he would not be found guilty in this situation. But yeah, those criminals that they're talking about, they're not the smartest criminals. Okay. So they got a point. Like what? They would just sit there and wait, hold the body, and then dump the remains. Like it just, like I said, it's just not math. And then of course, how convenient that they would go and drop the remains off in the same area, the same body of water that Scott Peterson is going and fishing at. And again, that's a very good possibility that maybe it's a spot that people go and dump remains at. I don't know. It just seems a bit odd. Let's go, and we're going to go to this body of water and dump this body that just caught us out here stealing and robbing people. It just, like I said, ain't mathin'. It just isn't mathin'. Okay, let me grab these super chats really quick. Okay. K. Bragg, thank you so much for the 5. I appreciate your unyielding dedication to playing devil's advocate, but him guilty. Yeah, no, I mean, I really do believe that they got their guy. It's a wrap. Let me get this one here because I know I got a bunch of K. Bragg, so I'm going to get those really quick. Jackie Sue, thank you so much for the 5. What are the standards for the LA Innocence Project? I know the others have certain standards. The case has to meet. Actually, that's a very good question. I don't know what the standards are with the LA Innocence Project, but I'm wondering that as well. Actually, let me see here. What? Because obviously in this, they just have, it's a very, okay, our mission, our work, what we do. Let me show this with you guys real quick. This is what they do. All right. So direct representation, LAIP provides pro bono investigatory services and legal representation to indigent individuals in Central and Southern California who were convicted of crimes they did not commit. Advocacy, we bring awareness of the inherent problems within the judicial system to local and state lawmakers so they are better informed and prepared to create a more just system. Now, I don't know what their standards are, okay? But they clearly, if this is the correct LA Innocence Project, okay? Because I didn't know that there was 15 million of these mother lovers. But if that is the case, I don't know what their standards are, but they do believe that they have something where they believe that Scott Peterson is innocent, or that they have enough evidence that could exonerate Scott Peterson. Very interesting. Okay. But yeah, we'll see what happens with that. Let me continue. K-Bragg, thank you so much for the 5. That's not even new info that was presented at the trial and lacked credibility. I don't know exactly what you're talking about there, because obviously I don't know where. Maybe it's the evidence. Maybe it's some evidence that they brought up in one of the video clips I was talking to you guys about. Maybe that's what it is, and maybe that's true that it just lacked enough credibility or something, or it could just be irrelevant stuff. You never know. Let me hold on before I go to that one. The evidence that they're looking at, that they're interested in looking at, the bag, the tarp, not the tarp, the rope and the possible tape and all that stuff that was found washed up with Connor and Laci. They could be very interested in trying to run those things because maybe there is something there. But then again, maybe there's nothing there. I don't know, but they do believe, or they do feel that they may have some evidence that could find him not guilty, which is interesting. K-Bragg, thank you so much for the 5. A relationship. What in the Fannie Willis is going on? Yeah. And I think you were talking about the prosecutor or one of the lawyers having a relationship with someone in law enforcement, if I remember correctly. But that is very interesting. But at the same time, like, it didn't change. That didn't change the verdict. That didn't change what people were looking at in this particular trial. He was still found guilty. Yes, they had to get rid of a juror, but at the same time, they had 6 alternates, just in case of that kind of situation. And they used one of the alternates. So, I mean, to me, it's like I said, this man is guilty. That's what I think. There's just too much that gives us and paints us a picture of a guy who wanted out of the relationship. And the only thing he could think of is by doing the unthinkable. And of course, a lot of other things were like hearsay about him not really wanting to be a dad and him really not wanting a child and all that stuff. He had no interest in fathering any type of children and all that. And that's all hearsay. That doesn't matter. What matters is that we have that there's evidence that they used, and a lot of that evidence says he thought of something sinister and he executed that. Now, the only thing is that he got caught. And of course, yeah, that's my opinion. That is my opinion. I know that there's a lot of people out here that do believe that he's innocent. Then, hey, if you have the LA Innocence Project getting involved and they think that they have evidence that could exonerate him, run that stuff. Run those tests. Hopefully there's DNA on that stuff. Hopefully you got enough to prove a different narrative. Because here's the thing. If whatever they use, the rag from the van, or the apparently there's a mattress as well, like if they run DNA off the mattress that was in the car or in the van or anything of that sort, and if that stuff comes back showing proof positive that Laci Peterson, there's a match that her DNA, that she was in that car, then yeah, that would give us a different narrative for sure. But does that totally exonerate Scott Peterson or not? I guess that's what we gotta wait for and leave open for now. I'm gonna end this poll. It's been up for a while. So I said, I asked you guys, do you think Scott deserves another trial? 74% of you guys said no. Out of 586 votes, 74% of you guys said no. You don't think he deserves another trial. And I can only imagine why y'all think he does not deserve another trial. It's because I think that you guys, the 74% of y'all, agree with me that they have their guy. But at the same time, Anything's possible. Anything's possible. So we'll see what happens when they say with what they say here, because there's going to be more. Okay. They're going to say there's going to be more. Trust and believe. Trust and believe. Yeah, actually, it should be 75% of y'all. That's weird. I hate when the poll doesn't do it all. But maybe it's like a 74.3% and a 25.7%, whatever. But anyway, that is very interesting. Nonetheless, about 75% of y'all saying, nah, he doesn't deserve another trial. And I agree with y'all. I think they got their guy. I think it's a wrap. But let them run the test. And if the tests come back positive, oh, then that's a very interesting turn of events. And then I'm going to want to know, what is the full breakdown, right? What's the full story then? What really happened here, right? So, yeah. Beach Life. The Menendez brothers. Sure. That's kind of is there something new going on with that? Because we could talk about it. But if that's interesting. Debbie even says Menendez brothers deserve a new trial. Interesting. I need to look into it. I've only seen, I know about the story. I know about the case and all that, but it is something I still haven't really looked into in a minute with the Menendez brothers. Because I know there was talk of a possible trial, but I haven't seen it. You know what I mean? I haven't heard anything as of late. And of course, there's a lot of other cases that we need to talk about. There's a lot of other cases that are going on right now. And yes, some very unthinkable things happened to the Menendez brothers. I mean, terrible things happened to those kids. Real talk. But yeah, that's not those kids. They're not kids anymore, but you know what I'm saying. Terrible things happened to them when they were, teenagers, late, throughout their childhood was terrible, right? But it's something that we definitely should talk about for sure. But real quick, guys, please go check out pascalmerch.com. Okay, we got some new outfits, new hoodies, t-shirts, etc. over there. I got this whole Valentine's Day look out right now, so go check it out. I'm sure you guys will really enjoy it or really appreciate it. I make these with these two hands. So they are handcrafted, custom made hoodies and t-shirts, but made by yours truly. So go check them out if you can. That'd be greatly, greatly appreciated. All right. And if no two outfits are the same. So whatever you get is unique in its own right. It's not like I go and buy this crap material from somewhere else and it's all the same print. It is completely different every time because it's made by me. So go check it out. PascalMerch.com or BeautifulBeefCollections.com. I'm going to pin it to the top of the chat, but of course, check it out in the link down below if you're watching the replay. All right. That would be greatly, greatly appreciated. Angie Pangie just said unfree Gypsy Rose. Yeah, I mean, but that's the thing. There's a lot of other people that have gone through some really bad things, and they have gone, they have served time, and then now they're out. You see what I'm saying? It's very interesting. And Gypsy Rose is a whole other conversation in itself. We need to talk about that, of course. And we're going to talk about that maybe again later on this week, depending. Okay. But we got a lot of stories and conversation to have. I'm still waiting on some updates on the Chiefs fans situation. There's still stuff that I'm waiting on Savannah Soto, but there really hasn't been much. Apparently there's some stuff that's going on in February. So when we get to February, I'm sure there's going to be a lot more conversation about that very, very soon. Okay. But Miracle Mama, thank you so much for being a member for the past 11 months. Do you think Gypsy Rose being free and a celebrity now sets a certain precedent? The brothers were just as aid. Let me say this. Okay. You know how she says, technically, she said, technically, I'm down in Emmer. She still is. Okay. I still believe that. Okay. She still thought about that thing. She still plotted this whole thing out with her boyfriend. Her boyfriend was willing to risk it all for her. She knew that, and she took advantage of that situation. Let's keep it a buck. All right. But, she did not put her hand. She did not do the act. If we're gonna go into technical, we're gonna be technical about this. Let's be technical. All right. She did not put her hand in doing that. She did not do the act. She planned it out. She had somebody else execute, but she's not the one who actually did the act. Okay. Now, Menendez brothers, oh, they did that act. Oh, they did. They plotted it out, and then they did that. So there's two different things here. You see what I'm saying? So for me, do they deserve to be free right now? I don't know. I don't know if Gypsy Rose should be free right now. I get that those three individuals all went through their various severities of A. Okay? Various degrees of A. But I could see why she had a lesser sentence. And then you have the two having a much more harsher sentence. But that's just my thoughts. I think she should still be locked up. That's just my personal opinion. It just is, you know? Because no kids should ever endure whatever those three, the Menendez brothers and Gypsy Rose, they should never have had those kinds of experiences ever, right? And the parents should rot, in my personal opinion, as well, for what they're alleged of doing. But at the same time, there's the act of, and the planning of. And those are two very different things. Yes, they're still under the awning of M, but she did not put her hand in it, and they did. So it's very interesting. And I can see, some of you guys are saying they've done it for money, this, and this, you know what I mean? There's a lot of opinions out here, right? That they did it to emancipate themselves, get away from their overbearing, controlling a monster of a father, right? But at the same time, they still took a person's life in a very savage way. So, I don't know. It's a tough conversation. But maybe we circle back and we have that conversation as a family about the Menendez brothers. We'll see. But definitely, if you're watching this replay, please definitely comment down below. Let me know what your thoughts are. I mean, when it comes to this whole thing, Scott Peterson, very interesting. He could very well get a retrial. I just say, before you get that retrial, run that DNA. Make sure that the DNA matches. Make sure that the story and the timeline of that possible alternate storyline with the robbers and all that, make sure that that is solid, concrete, before we waste our time going back into another trial. Just so we can get a person that I believe is guilty free. Anyway, guys, that is the show. I appreciate all y'all for being here. Really does mean a lot. You guys have been amazing. Okay, if you're in the Midwest, hopefully you guys are staying warm and staying out the icy weather, because it's insane right now. So stay safe. All right. But for the rest of y'all, enjoy your day. Make it wonderful. Do me a favor before you head off. Hit that like button down below, please and thank you. All right. I might be back a little bit later on this evening. I may, depending on if there's something that's popping off that we need to talk about. So I will be talking to you guys about it very, very, very soon. All right. So hit that like button down below, please, and thank you. Hit that reaction button if you're watching on Facebook. Don't forget to hit that follow button on my Facebook page before you head out. And, of course, do not forget to crush that subscribe button on my YouTube channel. Come on, baby. That'd be greatly appreciated. We're almost at 114,000 subscribers. We're like this close away from 114,000 subscribers. So if you appreciated the conversation and the coverage of this case and the possible retrial, please be sure to show some love. Hit that join button down below. Become a member. Check out my merch, PascalMerch.com or BeautifulBeefCollections.com. Go check those things out, please and thank you. That'd be really appreciated. Anyway, guys, it's time to get going. Much love to you guys. Be good to yourselves. Be good to one another. And I'll see you guys very soon. This is The Pascal Show. Bye.